If you're looking to elevate your fire alarm skills, I have a free training. This is my way of giving back to all the technicians. Because when I was coming up, I had nobody to show me how to do it. So for all the newbies that's coming up, that's trying to learn how to get better in fire alarm, there's a free training center for you. Make sure you click the link. And if there's anything specific that you want me to do, leave it in the comments. We could chop it up. I'll let you know if I could do it or not. And I'll do that video so that way I can help you and anybody else that may have that same question. All right? Fire Alarm Training Center, link in the description. Peace. So as we get into NFPA 72, chapter 21, we're going to be talking about the emergency control functions and interfaces. Here you will understand how the fire alarm system interface with control and other building systems such as elevators, HVAC, smoke control, fire suppression, doors, and lighting. During emergency events, students will learn the signaling, supervision, and fail-safe requirements that govern these life safety functions. So what is an emergency control function? By definition, an emergency control function is an action triggered by the fire alarm system that controls non-fire alarm systems to enhance life safety or protection of property. These are not notification functions. They are response actions coordinated by relays, modules, or logic programming. So chapter 21.2 talks about the emergency control functions, and here are a few codes that I want you to highlight. 21.2.1, this is the emergency control functions that shall be permitted to perform automatically, which moves to 21.2.2. The performance of automatic emergency control functions shall not interfere with power for lighting or for operating elevators. 21.2.3. The performance of automatic emergency control functions shall not preclude the combination of fire alarm service with other devices requiring monitoring of services. 21.2.4. Emergency control functions interface device shall be located within 3 feet of the component controlling the emergency control functions where the control unit is not configured as a Class D circuit. So the relay should be within 3 feet or inside of the elevator controller, however you can get it there. 21.2.5, the emergency control function interface device shall function within the voltage and current limitations of the fire alarm control unit. 21.2.6, the installation wiring between the fire alarm control unit and the emergency control function interface device shall be Class A, Class B, Class D, Class N, or Class X in accordance with Chapter 12. 21.2.7, emergency control function shall interface with other operations of the fire alarm system. 21.2.8, the method of interconnecting between the fire alarm system and emergency control functions interface device shall be monitored for integrity in accordance with 12.6. Now all of that is saying is your relay, once it goes into trouble, it should report to the fire alarm control panel. If you need 24 volts, that 24 volts should be supervised. Nothing else should be connected, but if you're monitoring it, you can use a monitor module to monitor the function of the elevator, rather if it's on, off, whatever the position is. So it should override any other functions within the fire alarm system. This should be top priority when an elevator lobby or water flow detector go off, that this elevator actually will. So when you get an input activation from a smoke detector, elevator lobby, or water flow, these output events need to take place and they need to take priority. So the fire alarm system doesn't just make noise, it commands other systems to act in coordination. So that way we could enunciate the alarm, shut things down, and get you out the building safely. Stop the spread of smoke. So 21.3.1, all fire alarm initiating devices used to initiate the elevator phase 1 emergency recall operating shall be connected to the required building fire alarm system. In short, they're telling you if you're in the building, this smoke detector needs to be connected to that building's fire alarm system. In short, 21.3.2, in facilities without a required building fire alarm system, fire alarm initiating devices used to initiate elevator phase 1 emergency recall operation shall be connected to either a non-required building fire alarm system or a dedicated functioning fire alarm control unit that shall be designated as elevator recall and supervisory control unit, permanently identified on the dedicated function of the fire alarm control unit and a record of drawings. So if there's a building without a fire alarm system, you still must perform an operation of elevator recall. With a non-required building fire alarm system, maybe just in some type of manual operation, but you have to identify some way that you're actually shutting this system down. So the best thing to do is to put a fire alarm system in that building. 21.3.5.1, a lobby smoke detector shall be located on the ceiling within 21 feet of the center line of each elevator door within the elevator bank under control of that elevator. So if you have 3 elevators in the elevator bank, potentially you would have to put 3 smoke detectors in line with each one of those elevator banks. Usually we would just put one centered in all 3 of the elevators in that elevator bank, but the way this code is actually worded, you would have to put one in each one of those elevator banks, and just make sure that smoke detector is within 21 feet. 21.4, elevator power shutdown. Elevator shunt trip activation will cut the power to the elevator if any heat detectors in the elevator shaft goes into alarm. So 21.4.1 says, when a heat detector is used to actuate the disconnecting means described in 2.8 of ASME A17.1/CSA B44 safety code for elevators and escalators, to disconnect the main line power supply to the affected elevator and any other power supplies used to move the elevators upon or prior to the activation of sprinkler. The detector shall have both a lower temperature rating and a lower response time index as compared to the sprinkler. 21.4.2, the heat detector specified in 21.4.1 shall be placed within 24 inches of each sprinkler head and be installed in accordance with the requirements of Chapter 17. 21.4.3, if pressure of water flow switches are used to actuate the disconnecting means specified on 21.4.1, the use of the devices within time delay capability shall be permitted. So no more than 90 seconds that water flow should be able to activate if there's water moving through the pipes. 21.4.4, control circuits of the disconnecting means specified in 21.4.1 shall be monitored for the presence of operational voltage, which means that data should always be present at the base of these devices. 21.5, fire service access elevators. When one or more elevators are specifically designated and marked as fire service elevators, temperature and presence of smoke in elevator lobby machine rooms, control rooms, machinery rooms, or control spaces shall continuously be monitored and displayed on a building fire alarm system annunciator or other means of annunciation as approved by the AHJ. And 21.6.1, elevator status, where elevators are to be used for occupants for self-evacuation during a fire and non-fire emergencies, and they shall comply with sections 21.5 and 21.6. 21.6.2, occupants evacuation operation. Outputs from the fire alarm system to the elevator system shall be provided to implement elevator occupation evacuation operation in accordance with section 2.27 of ASME A17.1/CSA B44 safety codes for elevators and escalators as required in 21.6.2.1 through 21.6.2.5. So these are the codes that you need to highlight for fire service and access elevators. Now there's different types of interface modules. We have relay modules where we connect to elevator controls, HVAC for either fan shutdown or stair pressurization. There's monitor modules. This is used to detect the position and status of doors. This is used to detect the position and status of dampers and tamper valves. And there's also dedicated logic programming, either in network panels or standalone panels. We're telling the system how to operate from the inputs to the outputs. So everything on a fire alarm system must be tested, verified, and ensured that it actually works in compliance with NFPA 72. So some of the common field applications, if you have elevator recall, that's usually the smoke detector in the lobby. That's usually the smoke detector in the elevator lobby or in the mechanical room. It recalls the elevator to the designated floor. There's also alternate recall. So if there's a fire on the first floor, the elevator will then go to an alternate floor, either the second floor or the basement, but just an alternate floor other than the first floor. Then there's elevator shutdown. That comes from the heat detector, either in the shaft or inside of the mechanical room. That will completely cut the power to the elevator. Then we have HVAC shutdown, which is either an area smoke detector, duct detector, water flow. That's going to shut the fans down to stop the air movement so that way smoke doesn't travel throughout the building. Then there's door release. You could either hook it up directly to the fire alarm control panel, or you could just put a relay in there to release the doors to de-energize the magnets so the doors can close. These are usually for fire doors doors, either 2, 3, or 4-hour rated fire doors. There's also smoke curtains like fire rolling gates that could also activate to either come down or close when there's a ceiling mounted smoke detector that goes into alarm. When you're wiring a fire alarm relay, you want to make sure you pay attention to your positive and negative, especially when it's coming from the data. You want to make sure your polarity is correct. And when you're wiring either your output function, you want to make sure you either wire it normally closed if it needs to keep power to actually operate, usually for like a mag lock, or you will wire it normally open if it doesn't need power, but once the alarm activate, it will send power, or it will close the relay to either send a signal to actually perform the output action, rather it be to shut down or to activate. So now let's move on to section 21.7, where we talk about HVAC shutdown. This is to help you understand the requirements for fire alarm system initiating HVAC shutdown under section 21.7 of the NFPA 72. This includes when it's required, how it's triggered, how it must be supervised, and how it integrates with smoke control and duct detection systems. So why would you shut down the fans during a fire? When you shut down the fans, it will stop the distribution of smoke, toxic gas throughout the building in the event of a fire. Shutting them down prevents smoke migration, protects escape routes, and help compartmentalize the hazard. Section 21.7 ensures this function is reliable, code compliant, it's integrated into the fire alarm system, and how it actually shut down. 21.7.1 Provisions. The provision of this section 21.7 shall apply to the basic methods by which a fire alarm system interface with the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system. So some of the things that shut down the fans are duct smoke detectors, making sure you install the sampling tool correctly with the holes facing towards the airflow. There are area smoke detectors that will shut the fans down. Everything will be controlled and programmed into the fire alarm control panel from your laptop. And any fans that's over 2,000 CFM is required to have a duct detector. That's on the supply side. If there's an exhaust fan covering more than 2 floors that's over 15,000 CFMs, then also there's a duct detector required for the exhaust side. 21.7.2 The method of connections. If it's connected to a fire alarm system servicing the protected premises, all detection devices used to cause the operation of the HVAC system, smoke dampers, fire control smoke control, or even fire doors shall be monitored for integrity in accordance with section 12.6 and 23.8.5.3. The fire alarm cables must be supervised. If there's an open, ground, short, or anything that happens with that fire alarm cable, the system should enunciate that trouble. 21.7.3 Connection. Connections between a fire alarm system and a HVAC system for the purpose of monitoring and control shall operate and be monitored in accordance with the NFPA standards. So it says in 21.7.4, smoke detectors mounted in the air ducts of HVAC systems shall initiate a supervisory signal. Also in 21.7.4.2, smoke detectors mounted in the air duct of HVAC systems shall be permitted to also initiate an alarm signal where required by other governing laws, codes, or standards. So if the ASJ require it to go into alarm, like we do in New York City, we make that point type for the duct detector alarm. 21.7.5 If the fire alarm control unit actuates the HVAC system for the purpose of smoke control, the automatic alarm initiating zone shall be coordinated with the smoke control zones they actuate. So whatever zone activate, it should also activate that same output zone. So the way this is more so if this was more of a conventional system. However, the addressable systems, you program it the same way. It works this exact same way. 21.7.6 If carbon monoxide detection or a dedicated carbon monoxide system initiate a ventilation response, a smoke control response of the fire alarm system shall take precedence over the response of the carbon monoxide during a fire alarm condition. So it's telling you that the smoke detector will take priority if that goes into alarm in addition to the carbon monoxide detector, if the CO detector goes off first. Now moving on to chapter 23, this is the protected premises fire alarm system. This is to help you understand the functional requirements, design rules, and system components that make up a protected premise fire alarm system as defined in Chapter 23 of NFPA 72. This includes system types, circuits, integrity, supervision, signal transmission, and system configuration. So what is a protected system? A protected fire alarm system is installed on site to detect a fire, alert the building occupants, Notify emergency personnel either through direct voice or either through monitoring. Activate emergency control functions like HVAC Shutdown, door release, elevator recall, and etc. This is the standard fire alarm system found in most commercial, institutional, and multi-unit residential buildings. In addition to that, you will find stair pressurization and also some type of damper control when they're using the smoke control system. 23.3, the system features. The system must include initiating devices like smoke detectors, heat detectors, pull stations, water flow and tamper switches, notification appliances like horn strobes, speaker strobes, and also just strobe onlys, control equipment like the fire alarm control panel, that's the brains of the whole system, the annunciator, and additional power supplies if needed, emergency interfaces for the HVAC system, the elevator recall, or even access control to release the doors, monitoring equipment like the DACT, your IP communicator, your radio transmitters, or if you're using regular telephone lines. Each device and component must be listed for the fire alarm use and installed per manufacturer specifications. So we're not out there freestyling, putting things in. We know that smoke detectors have a 30 feet spacing. Horn strobes have an 80 to center height. All of these little details we need to understand so that way we become more confident when it comes doing fire alarm. 23.6. System performance and integrity. All systems must be able to detect a fire condition early enough to allow evacuation, supervise for faults, open, shorts, grounds, or anything that could happen to the fire alarm system, capable of indicating an alarm, trouble, and supervisory signal both locally and remotely to the central station. And when you install in the system, it really depends on your circuit supervision, your end-of-line resistance, your battery and voltage drop calculations, and the monitoring of all of your initiating and control points. So everything on the fire alarm system has to fully work 110% and all report to the central monitoring station accurately. 23.8. This is the system requirements. 23.8.1.1.1. Systems that have a pre-signal feature complying with 23.8.1.1 shall be permitted if approved by the AHJ. That is your local authority having jurisdiction, your fire department, or if you're working in government or any state facility, they will give you that direction. 23.8.1.2, the positive alarm sequence. This is to initiate the positive alarm sequence operation unless otherwise permitted by 23.8.1.2.1.3. The signal from the fire alarm sequence must be acknowledged. If the signal is not acknowledged within 15 seconds, notification signals in accordance with the building evacuation plan shall be immediately actuated. A qualified person shall have an alarm investigation phase of up to 180 seconds to evaluate the fire alarm condition and then reset it. This is a voice system. So this is a design for a voice system, floor above, floor below, and there's a fire floor. If the fire alarm is going off for 15 minutes, then the evac tone throughout the rest of the building will now sound. So now we are alerting the whole entire building that there may be an issue on one of these 3 floors. 23.8.2. Alarm control units. Alarm and signaling system shall be permitted to combine all detection, notification, and auxiliary functions in a single system or be a combination of components of a subsystem. 23.8.2.7.2, supervisory conditions on an interconnected alarm control unit shall enunciate a supervisory signal. 23.8.2.7.3, trouble conditions on an interconnected alarm control unit shall enunciate a trouble signal. As we move to 23.9, in-building emergency voice and alarm communication. All systems must include 23.9.1. In-building fire alarm emergency voice alarm communication shall meet all requirements of Chapter 24. And Chapter 24 is the ECS, the Emergency Control Systems. 23.9.2, where voice alarm communication system is installed for the purpose of occupants notification related to carbon monoxide detection, it shall meet the requirements of Section 24.4, excluding the requirements of 24.4.8.6. And lastly, 23.9.3, all live voice communication systems shall meet the requirements of Chapter 24. 23.10, the fire alarm system using tone. 23.10.1, The requirements of Section 23.10 shall apply to tone and visual notification appliance circuits. 23.10.2, fire alarm systems must use partial evacuation and relocation shall be designed and installed such that attack by fire within a notification zone shall not impair control and operation of the notification appliance outside that zone circuit. If you have 4 zones, if zone 1 is affected, 2, 3, and 4 shall not be affected. 23.10.3, performance features provided to ensure survivability shall be described and technical justification provided in the documentation shall be submitted to the AHJ. So you must outline the performance features to ensure survivability when you're putting in a fire alarm voice system. 23.10.4, loudspeakers that transmit tone signals shall be permitted to be used as fire alarm notification appliances. It's still some type of enunciation. You're still letting people know that there's an emergency, so get out. Now as we move into the door release, so section 21.9, doors and shutter release. This is to help you understand the requirements for door holder release upon a manual activation. 21.9.1, the provision of this section 21.9 shall apply to all methods of connecting of doors and shutters, hold open release devices, and to the provisions of sections 21.9 is a section that goes over doors and shutters, how you should open and release them, how you should interconnect them, what releases them, what closes them, and the type of smoke detection devices that should be activating these outputs. 21.9.2, other than smoke detectors used only for door and shutter release and not open for area protection, all detection devices used for door and shutter hold open release services shall be monitored for integrity in accordance with section 12.6. 21.9.3, unless installed as a Class D circuit in accordance with 12.3.4, all door and shutter hold open release and integral door and shutter release enclosure devices used for release services shall be monitored for integrity in accordance with section 12.6. 12.9.4, magnetic door and shutter holders that allow doors to close upon loss of operating power shall not be required to have a secondary power source. 21.10, electrically locked doors. The doors should release if electrically locked doors and a required means of egress shall unlock in the direction of egress where required by other laws, codes, and governing standards. 21.10.2, for all means of egress, door connected in accordance with 21.10.1, where secondary power supplies of the fire alarm control units are listed, they shall comply with 10.6.7. 21.10.4, locks powered by independent power supplies dedicated to lock power and access control functions and that unlock upon power loss shall not be required to comply with 21.10.2. 21.10.6, all doors that are required to be unlocked by the fire alarm system in accordance with 21.10.1 shall remain unlocked until the fire alarm condition is manually reset. Okay, so now that is the completion of Module 3. I hope you're ready for Module 4. If you have any questions up until this point, please send your questions so that way we can do a live event and go over these questions to better help you. These are all small sections that's actually pulled out of the 81-hour New York State course. And when you actually finish this course, I suggest that you can go, and when you finish this course, these are just small courses I pulled out of just Module 1 of the 81-hour state course. We are still in the process of getting it approved, so stick with me, because once we get our course approved by the state, we're going to go full blast with the whole Licensed Navigator course. All right, so we're going to get you guys licensed, we're going to show you guys how to start a business, and we're going to show you guys how to make money and grow so you can live that freedom. Just have time to record videos and do whatever it is you love to do in life. All right, so I'll catch you in Module 4. Peace. If you're serious about installing fire alarm systems the right way the first time, or trying to get your fire alarm license, getting yourself NICET certified, or even learn how to start and grow a fire alarm business, click the link in my description and join the Fire Alarm Business Blueprint. We have all the tools necessary there to make you either a better fire alarm technician, or we're going to transform you from a tech to a CEO. Join the Fire Alarm Business Blueprint today.